Please welcome to BraveWords Streaming for Vengeance, one of my longtime friends from Coney Hatch, Mr. Carl Dixon. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Tim. Lovely to see you as usual.
Pleasure is all mine. Lots to talk about in the Coney Hatch world, aside from your beautiful return to the Mocambo. I want to actually go back, if you don't mind,
Sure.
and talk about your summer. You played a couple of shows, Sweden Rock being the biggie. What was it like getting back on European, Scandinavian soil?
I love going to Europe. Coney Hatch has just such a lovely following over there. They actually went mad for our Friction album of the first three that we put out, more than the others in Europe and
Right.
in the UK. So people there's a built-in audience that is willing to come and see us in the different territories we land. Sweden Rock, what a great festival. We were there last in 2004, and it wasn't as big then. It was still a big deal, but not as huge as it's grown to be. And Andy couldn't go with us on that one because he had just taken his job working with Rush at that time.
Right.
So
Right.
so Ray Daniels, the boss, said, "No way are you going out to still play with your band while you're working for me." So Andy missed that one. So he was very happy to experience it this time. We had a great time in Sweden Rock.
Now, this record is more about Germany, actually. The like the new live record, Postcards. Why did you choose Ludwigsburg as the town?
The opportunity was there. These things, you really do have to be open to the moment. We had no plan of doing a live album, but we were invited to play at the Heat Festival in Ludwigsburg for our first ever German show. And so I'd been offered by the promoter, because I booked most of the European stuff. I'd been offered by the promoter, "Hey, and if you want, we're going to have a full Pro Tools setup attached to the board. We can record your show. Just give me €100. We'll record it for you."
Nice.
Really? €100, eh? So I thought, maybe I won't even tell the other guys. And so I don't think I did. And I was the only one that knew. And we got just a great firecracker performance because the crowd was so into it. And the band was just excited to be in Germany. And we were either headlining or second from the top. I can't remember which. So it was just a great opportunity to record. So I went for it. And then I said, "Okay, send me the tracks." So he said, "I will send you on a USB stick, Well, he sent it to the wrong address. It took 5 months for it to arrive. Somehow Canada Post finally found me, even though he put the wrong address on it. Wow. And waiting all that time. And when I opened the tracks, they were every bit as exciting as I thought they were going to be.
Amazing, amazing. Well, BraveWords, we used to sponsor or work with the Wacken Open Air. So I've been going to festivals in Germany for like 2+ decades. And now we jump to Summer Breeze, which is outside of Stuttgart, which is actually really close to Ludwigsburg. But Germany really is the mecca for not just really heavy bands, like every kind of rock band.
Yes, they have loyal fans, the most loyal fans in Europe, but in Germany particularly fervent, and they really will support you every time you go over there. It's a nice thing.
Now, there's this big debate with some bands. It's like, why bother releasing new music? Kiss won't do it. The Rolling Stones did, and you guys released 2 brand new songs. So I guess there's the answer to the debate. You want to release new music, but is that an internal struggle to actually release new music in 2023?
You have to get over the idea that it'll ever be like it used to be when you release new music into the world these days. You have to do it for other reasons. You want to, I guess, exercise your musical chops now and not just always be known for the stuff we wrote and released 40 years ago, because we're still active musicians, and I'm writing and performing all the time. So the material was there, the opportunity to do something with it came up, and we thought, let's just get these two done as well as the best we can make them and see what happens.
I'm thinking that if you are born and bred into being a professional musician, no matter how old you are, it has to be built into your DNA to continue to create, even if the world doesn't want it.
Sure. I spend, I have to plug in my power here, actually. I spend all my days thinking about musical ideas and as I walk around the house. So it's a natural thing that you can't fight it.
Right.
It's just part of, if that's how you're wired, that's how you're wired. So you make music, you're thinking of music all the time. And so I think it's amazing to me that people, I guess, put it on a business level that it's not worth it to me. To me, it's an ongoing part of artistic growth because music is for other people. Right. You could make all the perfect songs you want at home and never release them because you'll never get paid what you think it's worth. But what's the point in that? We have thoughts and ideas that we share through our art and that we express with our musical ability. So that's enough incentive for me. Plus, you can't help hoping that on some level, it'll mean something to some people out there. Maybe it'll mean some extra shows for Coney Hatch if we show that we're still active and still sound good and still look good, So I think there's all kinds of levels on which it can work. It doesn't just have to be that we know we will never sell 1 million on this.
I love that answer. Great spirit. Seriously, great spirit. How invigorated is your soul actually playing live again and releasing new material? You must be like pleased as punch.
For sure. That's it gives a pep. Then you're not just grinding it out, playing this. The only thing you can do is mix up the order of your songs after a while. We played this one first for the last 5 years. Let's put it fifth tonight. It's nice to have some other fresh energy and something new for the audience, but mainly ourselves, because it makes us, I think, regard our old material differently too when we take on the new stuff.
Now, what do you think about this vinyl craze? Because this obviously has been released on wax, and it just blows my mind that vinyl, it might not be saving the industry, and in some cases it might be, but what do you think about the vinyl craze these days? And what actually was your first piece of vinyl that you bought or was given?
Gee. Well, the next stage, of course, will be, if we're going retro, we'll go back to cylinders next. Edison cylinders. First vinyl I ever got was, 45s were a big thing when I was a kid. So yeah. The 45 by the Guess Who of Undone and Laughing. I bought off the top 40 rack at the Woolworth store in Sault Ste. Marie, where I grew up.
Classic.
The first album I got was the soundtrack of The Graduate movie, because it had the great Simon and Garfunkel hits on it.
Right. Paul Simon. Wow. Very cool. And in terms of like creating new vinyl, in terms of like the production and the artwork and everything, are you having fun doing that?
Oh, I love it. Comes up so often, of course, when people talk about why they love vinyl. It's that little piece of art that is quite often, if it's done well, suitable for framing on your wall.
Right.
Another way to express your thoughts about your creations is the artwork you attach to it. So that is a way for the audience and the people that care about the music to get another insight into what the band is thinking here. We're all familiar with iconic album cover images that we recognize the instant we see them. Oh, yes, I remember, where I was when I was there. So it's a great thing, the return to vinyl. I still have something like 3,000 vinyl albums in my collection in my basement. I just have to get my stereo amplifier working again to go with the turntable, because it just died on me a little while ago. But yeah, I love, what? I love the limitations of vinyl. Yeah. I love that it forces you to treat the music as something special, because you play one side 15 to 20 minutes, you have to get up and turn it over. You
Can't you
can't
miss?
just you can't just let it fade into the background like sonic wallpaper where you turn it on all day the way streaming services are. It really forces you to engage and be aware of the start and the finish. And I think that's very important that people return to being engaged with music on that level.
Now, you guys have an incredible reputation as being this amazing, I'm not kissing your butt, amazing live band. What
Oh,
clicks
would you please?
what clicks with you guys live? What like where does the magic come from? What's happening?
You know, that's an interesting question because I think we met 42 years ago,
Right.
which is astounding to think about. But there's something still present in the three of us that remain from the original four that is the same as it always was, a role that we each play based on how we learn to play and what we cherish and value in music. Because every musician imagines how they want to sound and how they are presenting themselves. And you don't need to find other people that have the exact same vision as you in order for that to work. You need to find other people that have a complementary and supportive way that they're expressing themselves. And when you have that, then it's like there are little slots that you learn to work together, and each of you fits into your slot to make a whole that is much greater than each of an individual part.
Is there one particular band from you growing up that you saw them and you went, wow, we need to do this, at least this or better? They're like a band that really just ruled your life live.
Um, well, in terms of early inspirations, I suppose, I was in the era where the acts you heard on the radio came to play at your high school on
Right.
Saturday
Right.
nights for the school dances. So that was I didn't, growing up first in Sault Ste. Marie, I'd never seen a live band do anything. I just heard the bands on the radio and I thought they all lived in some magic kingdom where the groovy people go and make these beautiful records. Uh, then when I started being able to see bands at the school dances, it was Flood and A Foot in Cold Water and the Stampeders
Wow.
and Greaseball Boogie Band, who later became Brutus, but they were better as Greaseball. Uh, or sorry, they later became Shooter. I was thinking of Brutus, where Gino Scarpelli got his start. All these bands that used to be on the high school circuit, but I remember in particular being struck by Flood, and they had so many great players that became icons in Canadian music in other bands go through that line of supporting players to the Pilling brothers. And I thought Ed Pilling was just the greatest thing on a stage with his presence and how he fronted a band. And they wrote all these songs that were catchy and memorable. So they got me. I thought Foot in Cold Water was great. April Wine played our school when they were just getting started around the Electric Jewels album time. And that was pretty impressive that these guys from far away actually were touring at our school. The Guess Who was the first band I ever saw on a big stage at the CNE exhibition. So those things all gave me an idea of how I wanted to present myself. The girls that I used to hang around with, they'd observe at the school dances. Carl doesn't go to see the band. Carl goes to be with the band, because I'd be there just taking it all in and singing all the harmony parts from down in the crowd,
Right. Wow.
and just taking it all in, everything they were doing, probably for future reference for myself.
Nice, nice. That's incredibly great memories. Now, you must be pinching yourself that you actually get to be on this stage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's, you know what? They've done such a wonderful job of renovating it, because our first time playing at the Elmo was back in '83. And that was a two-nighter in the hottest nights of the summer that year, I recall. And our crew was just cursing us for having to carry all this heavy gear on such hot nights up the stairs because there was no elevator then to where the big room was, and it felt really cool then. And so the restoration that's been done, the renovation now just makes a beautiful facility to go to, and everything about it is top notch. The dressing rooms, the staging, the lighting, the seating, the service. I was laughing with somebody today about our memory. Actually, the Coney Hatch in our 80s coming up days, we never set attendance records. We always did well. What we did set was bar records. People would drink their faces off when they came to see us. So maybe if the crowd is still up for it, I'm sure that'll be also available for them.
Now, when I first walked into the whole renovation thing with Weckerly, I was like, how can you have a rock show in this beautiful place?
Yeah, it's a bit too nice, isn't it? But I used to have this motto that rock can't happen when the conditions are too comfortable. Air conditioned room and nice seating. I always felt it had to be kind of sweaty and people bumping into each other, rubbing elbows, crowded together. That's when the energy starts to get generated in the room. And so they still have that aspect of it, that there's stand up and people crowding each other. And it still gets warm enough. Yeah. But maybe we're all at a different age now where we don't need to be quite so sweaty and
I hear you.
Crowded.
Did you any memories of actually seeing bands at did you see the Stones at the Elmo? Did you see April Wine?
No, I wasn't old enough to attend things like that. The thing I remember seeing Charlie Sexton in there with his solo band after the Archangels fell apart. And so I thought, oh, I want to see an Archangel though. So that was a nice memory in there. I didn't really live in Toronto until about 84, probably 83. No, it was 84. So I wasn't there in the classic era of being able to just go downtown and see a show. The only time I was, sorry?
I said I was born and bred in Barrie, so I was the same. I didn't see my first show until like 1985 in Toronto. I was too young.
Right.
So I hear you.
Yeah. Yes, but in fact, the only way I saw other bands was when we did shows with them. Right. We were on the same bill.
Can we do a little bit more reminiscing about the early days and actually forming Coney Hatch? Like who created the logo? Like your first gig? Who's got a copy of that first logo?
The first, the rock and roll and the Lunatic Fringe stuff. We had a manager called Bruce Wilson, who was in place when I joined the band. The original singer that began, who's I guess the first year the band was going, maybe 8 or 10 months, and he decided it's too hard being in a band. I'm going back to school. He was probably the only sensible one of all of us. He's a successful architect in Ottawa now.
Okay,
but he's a great guy, and we stayed in touch. Anyway, I took they wanted to keep going, so I replaced him as singing guitar player. That's what the advertisement said they wanted, because they didn't want to have somebody who they were calling the lead singer. That's how many lead singers does it take to change a light bulb stuff, right? You know that joke, I hope.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I joined, and Bruce Wilson was the manager, and they had all this crazy promo. A friend of theirs had done up a sketch of a lunatic kind of guy, and they called him Gordy. There were these yellow handbills that were put up when the band was playing somewhere, and he just had these wild eyes, crazed, and hair, like it was just being torn at, and then a list of all the songs they were playing. And honestly, it was a crazy set list at that time. And everybody had to sing a few songs to pitch in, because nobody was a strong enough vocalist until I came along. So we used to have Steve Shelsky singing "Walking on the Moon" by the Police, and "The Cradle Will Rock" by Van Halen, and Andy was doing "Crew Slut" by Frank Zappa, and "Drugs in My Pocket" by the Monks, and all kinds of crazy stuff, just to fill out the. Plus, it was, I like this song, let's play it. Okay, so the AC/DC origins came about from the guy that I replaced, actually.
he was the AC/DC nut in the band. But then he, jumped ship and left the rest of them. Okay, this is our sound, I guess. So it was, having those songs as a grounding, though. I didn't even listen to AC/DC before I was in Coney Hatch, but I suddenly realized, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I should figure out how to do this. Just, I had to sing it all, first of all. And so that was really neat crash course. And right from the first time we met in a rehearsal room, we started that identity of the 4 different skill sets and tastes meshing together and finding the middle. There's a great quote from John Paul Jones. He was talking about Led Zeppelin, the magic they had. He said Led Zeppelin actually was the space in the middle between the 4 of us. The 4 of them being so different, where it all met was in the middle there. And that's what Led Zeppelin was, their combination. Same thing with Coney Hatch. Quite different outlooks and approaches, but that space we met in the middle is what became our sound.
I want to show you something, because one thing I missed growing up in the 80s is radio. And here's Chum FM, the top 82 albums of 1982. And
oh yeah,
you guys are at number 59 right here. You can kind of see it. The other one,
I remember that. Yeah.
And there's Q107's 1983, and you are number 61. But I just have great memories of listening to like a new Coney Hatch song on the top 10 at 10, for example.
Yeah. The radio then was it was a great launching pad. That was the 80s was the turning point, probably to somewhere in the mid 80s, the radio industry becoming more corporate, I would say.
Yeah.
I remember Ray Daniels as our manager going in to talk to who's the Slate guys. I guess they had the Q station, didn't they? It was the Slates there. Yeah. And so he talked to Gary Slater, Alan Slate, about our new album Friction, and hey, I really hope you guys will get behind this new Coney Hatch release. It's a great album. They sound some beautiful singles. They're picking up some airplay. Got a video going. And the head of the station turned to him and said, "Ray, I'm not in the record business. I'm in the advertising business." And that was a mindset, I believe, that really changed in the 80s to be much more, and of course the rise of demographics study and really micro managing down to what is our specific age group that we're targeting for. And I think radio prior to the era of consultants and demographics was much more broad in its scope. And you could hear the Stylistics and Janis Joplin and the Beatles and Black Sabbath on the same broadcast. And so that's not something that you really have heard in commercial radio for many years. I really miss that, because that's what was my training ground in how to write a catchy song, what makes a cool single length song, what you need to have in a chorus, how you do an intro, all those things that I learned from listening to the radio in those days, because it's really about capturing somebody's attention with your piece of music most effectively. You start with a little song idea, and then you have to package that song idea in the most appealing, shiny wrapper that you can to get people to notice it. And so that's when you kick in the cool music and the big vocal and the production tricks and all those things,
I think Mr. Slate, his problem, he didn't have a girl from Last Night's Dream.
Possibly. Who does, though? Very few people get to meet their girl from Last Night's Dream.
But Friction really was the totally radio friendly record. Like, my God, when I heard Friction, I'm like, wow, it wasn't a sellout, but it wasn't like the first couple, right?
It was, it was a streamlined approach. I've heard from a few different fans of the band that they liked on the first album that sort of interplay that Steve and I had on the guitars and the unexpected stuff that was in the tracks. And by the third album, that's when I guess FM AOR rock radio was starting to define a simpler, more polished sound. And that's rough and ready and sort of imperfect interplay that Steve and I would do was deemed not to be the sound if you want to get on the radio.
Right.
So it really was a simplification. I know that we went into Make Friction and for instance, the rhythm guitars, because like many lead guitar players, Steve had a habit of playing just ahead of the group because they're excitable. Being lead guitar players, they want to, the simple part, but wait till I get to the complicated part. Come on, hurry up, let's get there. And when do we get to the solo? Come on. So it's hard for lead guitar players sometimes to sit in the pocket if they're not thinking about the rhythm stuff. And I play drums as well, and I really think about that pocket. So in fact, our producer just had me do all the rhythm guitars so that there would be that streamlined, not interplay, but powerful single idea going on.
Right.
All the same, all the time, you know?
Yeah. Couple more quickies for you. Some fun questions actually here. Who's your rock god?
Whoa. Well, let's see. I suppose I have to, I suppose, go with Paul Rogers on one level because I was so smitten with his singing and the sound of his songs with Free got me started with them. Free Live, I got when I was 11 or 12 years old, and I just thought, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then, Bad Company was next. And then wherever he went, he had that sound that only he could make.
Yeah.
So that he was a huge influence on my thoughts of what it is to be a rock guy, a singer. A rock god in the big, how do you do better than Robert Plant in terms of that iconic classic golden god image guy, and plus having the chops and the ability, the writing skills, and a personality. So rock gods, it depends on what instrument you're talking, I suppose.
Have you ever asked for an autograph?
Yeah, it was always hockey players, though.
Who's your hockey player then?
Well, gee, I love Daryl Sittler. I was I was in high school when it was the Daryl, Boria, Lanny, Ian Turnbull, Mike Palmateer version of the Leafs, and I just loved that team. Great story. I was 15 or 16, and I loved them so much. I'd read the write-ups after every game. I'd listen to them on the radio. I'd watch them on TV whenever I could. I remember exactly where I was when Daryl Sittler had his 10-point night, up against the Bruins. And I was so caught up in it at the same time as I was playing guitar and singing and in the school concert band, playing drums and all kinds of things to do with music. But hockey was just so deep in me. And then one night I had a dream that there I was in the Leafs dressing room at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. And I was getting dressed with the other guys, and there's Boria, there's the guys, there's the team. Okay, we're hitting the ice, we're going out to the game. So we're all going down the gangway toward the ice, and they all burst out onto the ice through the open doorway that opened onto the Gardens ice. And I had a little sheet of ice outside the boards, like a little curling rink, straight lane. And my job in the game, I would skate like hell to the other end of my little curling rink patch while the real game was going out on the ice, and then skate to a halt, and then skate like hell back to the other end when the game switched. And that was as close as I woke up, and I thought, okay, there's a message from my subconscious. That's as close as you're ever gonna get. I wasn't a great hockey player. I hardly played after I was about 13 or 14, just pickup hockey after that. But I just loved the team so much, and I identified with them. So I guess that I turned into a giggling schoolgirl when I met Daryl Sittler a few times. I couldn't help it. It's just, it's that deep thing in you that you're meeting a hero. More so than any musician, I think. Isn't that interesting? Huh.
Wow. Amazing.
I think I feel more in common with the musicians than the unattainable idol NHL guys,
Yes. Now, tying into the whole Postcard from Germany thing, with social media. When was the last time you actually received a piece of fan mail from a fan? It's like handwritten.
Oh, well, an actual letter, probably in the 90s. Everything's email now, of course.
Yeah.
So a postcard, yeah, from Germany. That the idea, of course, is the album is the postcard.
Right.
Even though we wrote 4 mock postcards in it, to, for the sleeve design.
Mhm.
And that's funny because Andy started the ball rolling in the wrong direction. He started calling it Postcards from Germany as if that was the official title. And I just saw that replicated. Oh my God, look what Andy started. Now everybody's repeating what he said. So it's been my mission to correct people. No, there's one postcard.
Just one.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you guys next Saturday at the Mocambo in downtown Toronto. So
Oh, it's going to be great.
yeah, absolutely, man. You take care of yourself.
All right.
Okay, man.
Thanks for this, Tim.
Okay.
Great stuff.
Bye-bye. See you soon.